So we now need buttons in our order summary so that we have the choice of continuing or canceling. So in my order summary, what I'll do obviously is I'll add buttons. One button here and another one. And on the first button, I simply want to say cancel. I'll write this in all uppercase for styling reasons. You can, of course, write this differently, style this differently, and continue here. So we get the choice. Cancel will essentially do the same as clicking on the backdrop does. And continue for now also will, or at least it can't do much else, because we're missing the other logic where we would submit this to a server and so on. But this is something we will add throughout the course. Now, these buttons will not look the way I want them to look though. So let's make sure to style them. And actually, I might reuse certain button styles throughout the application. Having a cancel and a continue button makes a lot of sense. So maybe we should outsource the button into its own component. Even though there already is a button element in HTML, we might still put it into its own component so that we can wrap it with some default styling and don't have to style that button in any component where we use it from scratch again. So for that, I'll go to my UI folder and add a button subfolder with a button.js file. Now, the code of this button component is super simple, as you might guess. It's a functional component which receives some props, where I return some JSX surprisingly, and I know it's also very surprisingly that we need to import React here. Now I need to export the button as the default here, of course. And with that, I now want to simply wrap a normal button element here, but I will need some props to configure it. I, of course, want to output props children here so that I can use my own button like a normal button and simply wrap the content which should go inside with my custom button element then. And I will need an on-click listener for sure, where I need to execute props clicked, for example. And of course, this is now the important part, I need different stylings for different types of buttons. A cancel button, a continue button, something like that. Let's first of all add the button CSS file so that we can set up some stylings. And as before, you will find a CSS file attached to this video so that you can get started with the button styles quickly. So here I imported the content of this attached file, and it simply defines a success and a danger button style. The success button essentially is green and the dangerous button is red or brownish red. Now we can use that here with class name on the button. And of course, for that, we need to import classes from the button CSS file we just populated. Now, in the class name here, we have to pass a string in the end. Keep that in mind. So I'll add an array because I always want to assign the button class, but then conditionally, I'll add the success or danger class. So I will set classes button as one element of this array of classes I want to add, and then classes, and now I will dynamically pull out a certain type with props button type, for example. Button type is a prop I have to set from outside, and button type will have to be either danger with a capital D or success with a capital S. And of course, you can also use a different approach of assigning the classes. I like this one because it's really flexible and easy to implement. And keep in mind, what we pass to class name has to be a string. Right now it's an array of strings though. So let's change this by joining this with a white space to have a list of classes, which is a string in the end. Now we got our own button component. In the next video, I want to use that button in our order summary.